Hello Game Changer, from 1000 to the first 100,000. My epic journey, which started basically like about 12 years ago now, even more, 14 years ago now when I was 16 years old, when I was living alone in New York, upstate New York actually, so it wasn't New York City. But first things first, if you really want to understand my current lifestyle, I'm not gonna, show off here. You can go to my Instagram, you can check out my hypercars, jets, mega mansion in Dubai, and just incredible lifestyle. Very, very billionaire type of lifestyle. However, a lot of people are often asking, saying, Thomas, can you please show us what was the beginning? Where did it all start? How much time did it take? And what was that entire experience? So this is the video that I've decided to actually just simply talk to you guys and give you all the details of my past and what I began with. So I moved to the United States thanks to my family, my mother, that spent her last money to send me off and to give me at least some hope for the brighter future. Because I was born in a very tiny country in Europe, which had and still doesn't have any opportunity and doesn't have any government support or any benefits for that matter, like at all. As long as, we're talking about achieving something extraordinary, which is very difficult to do in most European countries and the rest of the world, to be honest, in general. So the US was the place. I was about 16 years old. I moved a bit before then, but at the age of 16 years old, I was presented all to myself. First, I lived in not a foster home, but something similar to like a host family, which was the cheapest way of living in the US, especially as I was a minor. But with time, I understood that I just cannot be controlled by another family that I didn't really enjoy. It was a good family, I just didn't like it. So I moved out, and I actually moved in with my friends into a very horrible type of an apartment. I will put a picture somewhere on the screen here. This is the house, which consisted of 2 apartments, and it might look like an okay house, kinda, depending on what is your current situation in life, but it was horrific. There were actual cockroaches, and it was not nice, and next to it was a huge bikers bar when they were drinking to complete shambles every single day. So it was not a great environment. But anyway, I understood back then that I need to provide for myself, I need to help my mother, I need to try to help my mother pay for my education, and I made my mother one simple promise, which actually has turned my entire life around, and I still live by this promise, and I still am the person that I was as a kid, telling my mother that, looking at her and seeing how much pain she had to go through as a mother of just myself, when my father has quit on us when I was 2 years old and donated all the businesses and everything he ever built to a church. He actually got brainwashed by a religious cult and he left. So and since then, my mother didn't have, I was one of the first to actually end up having even a bachelor's degree in my family. So it was a very sad upbringing in general, and I saw a lot of the times when my mother was crying. She was very upset and she was really struggling with making our ends meet in general, and we were living at my grandmother's Soviet apartment. It wasn't fun. Once, when I was about 12, 13 years old, I remember that day still clearly when I told my mother that I'll do my freaking best as a man to change the current state of living for Kralow family. So, and once I moved to US, I actually had one job before I did, and it was in a construction site where I got fired because I wasn't doing jack shit, because I understood that for about, at the current rate of exchange, about $500 a month, you have to work 10 hours a day carrying cinder blocks and, cement bags, like 50 pounds each, to 7th floor and do it all day long. Like, even as a kid, I felt like my back is gonna break. I didn't even understand how these old guys were doing this shit. That, I was not surprised that people die at a young age, because this is just incredible. It's slavery. So I got fired from there because I didn't do shit, because I wasn't gonna break my back over $500 a month. Even as a kid, not having any money, I wasn't spoiled. So it was just my understanding that this is just stupid. Moving on, when I went to US, I got my first and last job in the United States working for someone. It was in Evans Library. As I remember it now, it was, maybe I'll find a picture and put it on the screen here as well. It was the library in the institution where I was studying, and I was working towards my high school equivalency diploma, as well as an associate's degree, which later you can transfer to get yourself a higher up type of a degree, which is a master's, doctor's, etc. And I understood at some point when my mother, she called me and she said, son, you gotta try to work harder in the library, because it's very difficult to pay for the entire living in the United States. Because again, I didn't have a father, and she was the only person trying to provide for us. And it was very painful to realize that my mother is sacrificing her entire life for me and for my future, and she's sacrificing her own well-being, her own family life, because she couldn't find a man, because she was just so focused on my life and, pushing me forward, that when I've heard from her, this saying that it was very difficult for her to say this, that son, we have financial issues and difficulties, and we quite frankly have overestimated our ability of sending you to the United States to change your life. So this was the point when I was like, holy shit. I either tried to make something of my side, and at that point I was about 16 and a half, soon it would have been 17, and I was like, I gotta do something. And my mind just simply opened up to what can I do, something that is not illegal, something that I'm not gonna go to jail for. And then I've realized one simple thing, and this is where my expansion happened. I was always interested in cars. I was always interested in tech, in iPhones, in computers, in whatever electronic stuff. And then I've realized that you are capable in the United States, you're capable to have a small speculative margin on pretty much anything. So let me explain what that means. Just to put it in perspective, I've bought a $500, I still remember this, sadly I don't have any pictures of it, 2001 dark green Mazda Protege sedan, manual gearbox. I bought it for about $600, and the reason why I bought it so cheap was because the lady that was selling it didn't know any better, and quite frankly I thought that she probably was on crack. It was an interesting experience, to say the least. She listed it for about $1,000, but I ended up getting it for $550, just because there was blue smoke coming out of the tailpipe. There was something with a head gasket, so the oil was going into the cylinders and burning oil, so that's why it was actually burning oil. And there was some rust on the bottom of the doors and fenders and all that kind of stuff. I did my limited research. At the time, YouTube was not as developed as right now. That's why you, young generation, are very lucky. You have all the information at your fingertips, and especially with AI these days, so don't freaking complain. I remember myself checking how to actually replace the head gasket, and till this day I still think I got lucky that it was actually the head gasket that was actually leaking the oil into the cylinder. So I got it at AutoZone in the US, a head gasket for the Mazda Protege's engine. So I actually looked through the catalog, I bought it, and myself, using a wrench, I actually took off the head and replaced the gasket. And to my surprise and astonishment and huge pride, the smoke actually stopped. And I paid like $29 for the head gasket. And then I used a spray, which was very different from dark green, but nonetheless I sprayed all of the rust and literally cleaned the interior fully with chemical agents and just a few sponges. And I actually managed to make it nice. It wasn't brand new, obviously. It had about 150,000 miles on that piece of shit. But nonetheless, the Kelly Blue Book value on a car in a good condition of this Mazda Protege during the same time was about $2,500. So I bought it really below market, but for a reason. It was a piece of garbage. So I cleaned it, replaced the head gasket, and also kind of hidden the rust. Yeah. And then, within about 2 weeks, without even registering the title in my name, which is a law in the United States, by the way, but it's like everybody flips titles there. It's not that big of a deal. I sold it to a guy for about $2,200, which still was below market value, and I spent about $200 in cleaning head gasket and all the bullshit. At the end of the day, I made about over $1,000 in 2 weeks by simply flipping one car, and actually more, about $1,700. Okay, about $1,700. I don't remember precisely, but it was the easiest money in my entire life. And then this is what taught me what speculation is. How you buy something cheaper and sell something more expensively. And then within the next year or two, I started speculating on iPhones, on MacBooks, on iPads, on any kind of electronic devices. I would really search the market every single day, seeing what is selling fast, what is not selling fast, what's the price on eBay, what is the price on Craigslist. Maybe people are giving some shit away. I even got myself a van, $1,500 yellow van. Sadly, I don't have a picture of it. I was using it on Sundays to pick up furniture that people were actually giving away for free. A lot of it was garbage, and I didn't take it. But sometimes there were really good things, like, for example, a nice couch. I remember it, a corner couch that was out of white velour. It was very dirty because dogs were sitting on it and stuff, so it was like, ugh. But I cleaned it. I spent like half a day cleaning it, and guess what? I sold it for $600. I got it for free, spent $30 on chemicals, cleaned it, $600. There you go. So 500 something dollars profit. And then I was doing this for a couple of years, and I remember myself at the age of about 18 and a half, 19, I was paying for my education, I was paying for my apartment in upstate New York, and I was helping my mother. So it's like we actually made it. And at some point, I got into Harvard because we were actually able to afford it, but then we couldn't because it was just too expensive. So I studied in Harvard for just one semester, unfortunately. But it was an interesting experience. Nonetheless, by the age of 18 and 19, I managed to get myself a used piece of shit, but still, and also a dark green picture on the screen right here, Porsche Cayenne. And yes, this is me, living in upstate New York, not looking that great. I had a very bad lifestyle. I was drinking a lot of alcohol, partying a lot, and I was like an animal, honestly. I was living the rock star, sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of lifestyle, but without drugs, happily. Drugs were replaced by alcohol, and I had an alcohol problem, by the way. Maybe a separate topic for a video. That's why I don't look that great, and maybe even now I kind of look a bit younger than in that picture here with the Porsche. But at that age, I was making, I remember my record month, I made $8,000 as a freaking teenager, flipping shit on Craigslist, understanding supply and demand, and understanding margin. So don't tell me you can't. Yes, you can. Put yourself in an uncomfortable position, make a promise as a man or as a woman that you know you cannot break. And it will push you. This will be your true motivation. And popping up on a screen, check out a video I've done recently on the best strategy for 2025 that will print millionaires. Seriously, this is my entire journey that actually I've broken down into a few steps, adjusted it, something that is gonna work for you too. It's free. Check it out. See you next video. Game changer.